So on this channel, we talked about the role of stress on eczema. Stress causes the body to get inflamed. It activates the adrenal glands, which control the stress response. And those adrenals then have a harder time pumping cortisol and steroids that help to keep inflammation at bay. But it is not only stress that impacts how eczema shows up in our lives. It is emotions in general. So emotions are energy in motion. So when our energy is in motion and we express it really well, meaning it goes through us and we channel it and it comes out of us, there's flow of energy of that motion, then everything goes well. Especially if that emotion is felt spontaneously and we don't necessarily enforce that emotion over and over. So when we enforce a certain emotion such as grief or anger over and over and over, we tax our system. So every part of our system, meaning our endocrine system or our body's energy system, is governed by specific energy. So when we reinforce a certain emotion, it basically imprints this energetic exertion on our chakra system or our endocrine system. So our endocrine system governs the way that energy is processed in our bodies, the way it activates into the external world. So the external world gives us energy and it also takes energy. So the way that we balance is we keep those emotions in balance. We keep that external and internal world in a really good interplay. But when certain emotions are very heavy and we continuously reinforce a certain emotion such as anger, disbelief, regret, all of those emotions, if we're really continuously revisiting them, we're creating certain energetic blocks within that system. So let's say kidneys, they govern the emotion of fear. So if we're constantly fearful, we can dysregulate the way that our kidneys function. So basically emotions and performance of our organs is interrelated. So when we stay in one emotion for too long and we don't have a healthy way of expressing it, we can cause our system to weaken. So the key is to feel those emotions, to process them, and to externalize them. So if you look at the skin basically shows off whatever's happening inside. So if we're internally inflamed, our skin is going to show that externally. If we have any skin issues, that means there is something happening internally. There's an imbalance. So emotions, when they're really over the top, they're continuously going through our body. The same emotion is processed constantly, but maybe it doesn't have a way to express itself, so it gets stuck. And that is a recipe for a lot of these imbalances that happen. So what is the solution to all of this? We do have emotions, we're all human, but how do we regulate them so they don't cause damage? Well, we have to definitely process them. So any emotion that's suppressed and not dealt with, not seen, basically examined, felt and released, is going to cause problems. Not maybe the one you have once in a while, but if you're having those emotions consecutively and you're not dealing with them, that is going to cause a huge issue. So for eczema, it's a systemic issue, right? Our skin is showing us, we're internally inflamed. So what kind of emotions are we dealing with that are causing us to be inflamed? And a lot of the times I see that in my own case and in cases of people that I work with, it is the emotions of anger, frustration, irritability, stuckness. So this frustration with the way things are. And when we're frustrated, we feel like we can't progress, that there is no ability to go to the next level in whatever we're dealing with, that we're stuck where we are and we can't necessarily progress to the next step. So those emotions that are really red hot, and symbolically you can think of whatever happens to your body, and in your life you can look at the meaning symbolically. What does the redness remind me of? What does the itchiness remind me of? What does the pain of this disease remind me of? And where can I trace it back? If we're not dealing with certain emotions well, we're not asking for help, we're not dealing with where that block is in our lives that are causing us those emotions, then those emotions become something that govern our daily experience. So our mental health, the way we show up in the world, and it just becomes a cycle. And in naturopathic circles, we're all taught that disease is a kind of side effect of the blockage of the lymphatic system, of the blood, and of the nerves. So if one or all three forces of the life force, which these are, become blocked, that means that's a recipe for some kind of imbalance in our bodies. And where that blockage happens really does have an effect on how we experience certain symptoms. So certain people with blockages, let's say in the first chakra, may have issues with money, problems with finances and stability, and all of that stress can show up in maybe prostate issues. So you have to look at the side effects. Where is that location in our bodies, and how does that correspond to those emotions and how we're processing our lives and the world? From my experience, it's usually the first, second, and third chakras that are blocked in people with eczema. And this is because those chakras or those energy systems deal with security, stability, creativity, self-esteem, ability to be empowered in our lives. So all of those systems that are mostly based on getting by in the world, getting by with the pressures and the anxieties and the relationships that we have to navigate. The rest of the chakras are more concerned with how we process our lovingness, attachments, and spirituality. So a lot of us who have eczema are extremely sensitive. So we do have that spiritual aspect down, I feel. Most of us are sensitive, intuitive, neurotic, but we're very in tune with those subtle energies. However, those denser energies that deal with survival and being able to thrive in this 3D dense world, those are harder to navigate. So I see those blockages there. And where do the blockages really, where basically do the kidneys and adrenals and the gut sit? It is where that anatomy of those chakra systems sits. So basically, all of those systems can weaken due to our emotions, due to our lifestyle, due to the way that we process information, the world, how we see ourselves in the world. And the kidneys are the master, hands down master waste removals in the system. So if they're not removing the waste, where does the waste go? The waste goes to the third kidney, which is the skin. So the kidneys, if they're down, the skin will take over. If our adrenals are down, the inflammatory system is not going to, basically the cortisol and the steroids that keep our inflammation down is not going to be active. The adrenals deal with the stress response. They basically sit on top of the kidneys and they regulate them. So they work together. So the adrenals, the stress causes them to go down, the kidneys go down, and the skin takes over. There's so much holistic intertwining of function when it comes to the processes of the body. So if the kidneys are down, everything else feels it. The lymphatic system can't be purged, meaning the waste system can't really work well, and then those acids and the waste is eating away at a lot of the tissues of the body, and that can cause weakness and degeneration. So the importance of kidneys cannot be stressed more, which leads me to how we have to understand the relationship between emotions, mental thoughts, and health, and how dealing with emotions properly is going to help us heal eczema for good. So how do we do that? Well, number one is we have to talk about them. Not only do we have to process them internally and make sure we shake them off, make sure that they we basically come to terms, have closure with them. If we can't do that ourselves, and most of us really can't, we have to talk to somebody who can help us. And that is usually the job of a therapist. If you don't have a good friend, a good support system that can help us with this, the best approach that I found is to talk to somebody that understands the body-mind connection, and that is a therapist. Also, working on trauma or trapped trauma is extremely important. So a lot of us don't know that we accumulated a lot of trauma in our childhoods, and we don't necessarily think of our maybe childhoods as bad or negative, but maybe the way that we were shown love wasn't what we needed. The way that we were neglected wasn't good for our nervous systems. And maybe nothing bad happened, but a lot of good didn't happen either. So we have to look at those aspects of our early upbringing and realize, how does that reflect in what we're experiencing now? And are there traumas and are there things we never dealt with that are impacting us today? So by going through those emotions, going through that somatic experiencing of those emotions that were not felt, not experienced, we can complete that cycle. So somatic therapy or trauma-based therapy is very, very effective. And that can help alleviate a lot of that pressure, a lot of that stuckness of those emotions in our bodies. It's going to open up those systems, and then the flow of energy is going to be easier. And when the flow of energy happens, then balance occurs in the body, and then we can experience better health. Our kidneys are going to work better, our elimination pathways, our guts, all of that is going to come together. Strength doesn't come from suppressing emotions. Sometimes, we're moms or wives and husbands, and we want to keep our families, keep the peace, and we think emotions, burying those emotions, not feeling them, and not dealing with our needs and wants, and giving to others when we should also focus on ourselves and give to ourselves. Basically, looking after the whole unit without actually knowing that taking care of ourselves is part of that, and one of the biggest aspects of taking care of everybody. So when we suppress and when we keep the peace and we don't handle conflict or emotions in a way that need to be handled in that moment, we keep all of that suppressed. So suppression by suppression and those basically issues will grow. They're never going to get resolved. They're only going to fester and become bigger. And so suppressing may seem like something really balanced and good-hearted to do at that moment because we're basically sensitive, good-hearted people. But it's actually extremely detrimental down the line, not only for ourselves, but everybody involved. We're not learning the lessons. We're not dealing with life. We're basically neglecting big aspects of what it means to grow as human beings, and that is to confront really hard issues, come to terms with them, and become maybe even different and change as a result. So that is a big thing, suppression of emotion. I've seen that time and again, and I'm here to say that you deserve to have your needs met emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And if this video gives you any inspiration, especially if you're living with eczema for a long time, it is to start meeting your needs and expressing and dealing with your emotions. If there's anything in life you haven't dealt with, today is the day to start. Take that chance. Call that therapist. Call your friend. Tell them you have to talk about something really important and that you just need somebody to listen. And after that, just take a deep breath and feel that release. Feel the release of that stuckness, of that heaviness, of that energy that was there for a long time. And now you can release it and let it go. So talking, experiencing, and feeling all are very, very important. So if you like this video and you want somebody to help you on this eczema healing journey, mentally, emotionally, and physically, I am here, and I have a coaching program that can help you do just that. I concentrate on the emotions heavily because I believe emotions have a big impact on adult eczema. And I also use my detox methodology as a detox specialist to help you remove that waste from the body, energize those cells, and create a balanced microsystem, emotionally, mentally, and physically, that can offset any eczema from coming back long term. My job is not only to help you heal eczema, but to help you find that alignment, internal alignment that is going to help you live the life of your dreams. Because if we're not aligned, there's nothing physical, mental, or emotional that can help us to get to that place if we're not willing to do all of that work at once. So I hope you really found this video useful. If you did, please give me a comment. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.